You'll get over heartache. You'll get over heartache. You'll get over heartache. Carry on, don't fear the fall, 'cause you'll get over heartache. Let it go as time moves on. Yes, you'll get over heartache. Carry on, it's not what happens now. You'll get over heartache. You'll get over.
Welcome, St. Lucian. Thank you for staying tuned or being tuned to another episode of What's Happening Now with Laura. My apologies for not being on air last week. We had a bit of a situation which could not be helped, and I know you missed me coming into your homes, into your living rooms, your bedrooms, your watering holes, and I missed you as well. But you know, it really is sad. It really is sad. It really is sad. Let me first start by saying that for one, I want to add my voice to all of those before me who have congratulated Mia Mottley on her win, on her tremendous win last month, sweeping the parliament and taking every seat is no easy feat for most persons, least of all a woman. And being a feminist as I am, I think it's a great accomplishment for a woman. It's a huge burden to carry, knowing that whatever you say, whatever decision that you make, there'll be no dissenting voice, pretty much, to it, because you've gotten everything. And while I was in jubilation and we were quite happy, everybody around the region congratulating Mia on her win, you know, I had to stop and think and ask myself, is it really something for us to be so jubilant about? Because, I mean, there needs to be an opposing voice. There needs to be another voice adding something else to the pot. The Bajan people have felt, obviously, that the opposition or the alternate really wasn't what they're looking for, and decided to go overwhelmingly. I think the only island, correct me if I stand corrected if I'm incorrect, I think the only island so far who has done that is Grenada, when they won, I think it was 24 seats, or is it 17 seats? I can't remember exactly. But Grenada has accomplished that, winning every seat in the country in Grenada. St. Lucia came very close, where we had a 16-1. So, you know, but 30 seats, that is tremendous. That is tremendous. But while everyone around the region were congratulating Mia Mottley, and everybody in St. Lucia was, you know, in awe of this feat, we in St. Lucia observed one of the bloodiest moments in our lives, and that's not disregarding the 5 who were murdered a few years ago in Vieux-Fort, and that's not discounting the fact that last year we had 60 murders in 1 year. But you know what occurred on Friday last week struck me as if it were something out of a movie. But before we go into Friday's, I think it was Monday's actually, situation, let's go back to Friday, the 27th of May. When a woman, we were struck with the news that a woman had been stabbed in the eye by a man. Struck in the eye by a man. I was so appalled because we've been talking about violence against women for so long. We've had marches, we've had conferences. I remember attending a conference on how to deal with men who behave violently. And it almost seems as if we take 2 steps forward in this country and we take 5 steps backward. So last week Friday, a woman had to be rushed to hospital. I keep saying last week Friday, and I have to remember that I was not on air last week Friday, so I should give you dates instead. So I think that occurred around the 25th of May. A woman had to be rushed to hospital after a man had stabbed her in the eye with a knife. And from what I understand, the reason for this was a lover's spat. And I'm thinking to myself, so you stab her in the eye. She's probably lost the eye. I hope not. What was your intention? That you would not see another man? And again, the whole backstory is what really gets me. From my understanding, and I stand corrected, is that they were lovers. They had been drinking together, and they were normal, having a good time. And somewhere along the line, something went wrong. And she ended up with a knife stuck in her eye. Now, how do you go from having drinks with your lover to stabbing her in the eyeball? How do you escalate from having a drink to becoming so massively violent that you stab another human being, not an animal, not a sheep, not a goat, a human being just as yourself, and you stab her in the eye? How do you get to that point? And it all speaks to the issue of, as a nation, do we drink too much? Is it that when we drink so much that we have no control over our actions, over our feelings? It is mind-boggling how one person can go from having a drink with somebody that they lay with, somebody that they claim to love, to the next minute stabbing that person in the eye. And I don't care how drunk you were, and I don't care under what influence you were. You need to have more control over yourself. And this just doesn't happen to just the people who drink in the cabaret, the white rum. I heard a lot of people talking about, that white rum business, And maybe we have given out too many licenses to operate those cabarets and bars. But we have to start taking control of ourselves. We have to start taking ownership of our bodies and to know when enough is enough. And we have to know that when we're with someone, we have to observe the behavior patterns when they're under the influence of alcohol. And to say to ourselves, self-preservation dictates I not be in this situation. I really empathize and sympathize with the woman who got stabbed in her eye, and I hope she has not lost her eye. But I really sincerely hope that the law deals with this man severely, that he is in no position to do this again to any other woman, and that this woman who got stabbed in the eyeball gets the help that she needs to understand that she does not go crying for the man, because a lot of the times these things happen. I remember not so long ago, a couple of years ago, there was this woman who was massively whipped within an inch of her life by her boyfriend. took her to the hospital. She spent some time at the hospital and promised her children, in particular her girl children, that she was going to leave and she was going to press charges. And would you believe that after being discharged from the hospital, she declined to press charges? She declined to press charges. And her retort was, who's going to take care of me? He's the one who takes care of me. You almost lost your life. And you think because he gives you a fistful of dollars on a weekly or monthly basis that is taking care of you? Taking care of you is not beating you within an inch of your life. Taking care of you is protecting you. Taking care of you is providing for you and loving you. And I've always said these are the main three things that a man is supposed to do for his woman, for his families, to provide, protect, and to love. And if you can't do those three things, there ain't a lot that you can do. And women, we have to demand that. We have to demand that. We have to put our feet down and we have to say no. No. And providing for me isn't just giving me a fistful of dollars. A lot of us women can take care of ourselves financially. So it's not just about the fistful of dollars. Yes, it helps to know that the man in your life can take care of you in the event that you can't financially. In the event that, sometimes we do have those moments when we fall. And when we fall really hard because we have not provided for ourselves a safety net. We have no insurance. We get ill and we're at the hospital. We're spending weeks at the hospital. And then we find out, next thing you know, you've got diabetes or you have renal failure. You have some sort of, and $100,000 right away. Just like that is... And you've lost your job because you can't go to work. You have no income coming in. And you have to be, say, perhaps doing that dialysis every week, 3 times a week. And you ain't got nobody. And so it's nice to know that you have somebody who can help you. But a fistful of dollars isn't all. It isn't. It really isn't. So I'm hoping that in all of the outpouring of support and sympathy that the woman is getting, that she realizes and she wakes up and says to herself, maybe I've lost my eye, maybe I've lost sight in an eye, but I have my life. I have my life and I'm going to make a change. Even if it is to the point where you say no more alcohol, because at the end of the day, having a drink isn't all that it's cracked up to be. So I hope you recognize what it is for what it is, and you make a change. Because the only person who can save you is yourself. We, NGOs, we, activists, we, the community, we as a nation can support you and try to motivate you. But ultimately, motivation is intrinsic. We can give you the tools to be empowered, but motivation to be empowered, motivation to get out of a situation is intrinsic, meaning it comes from within you. It comes from within you. And as a woman, there is great responsibility placed on our shoulders. You may be a mother, a sister, an aunt. You're certainly a daughter. There must be at least one person who looks up to you, at least one person who loves you, just by you being you. Just think about the disappointment. Just think about the hurt that you cause when you inflict hurt upon yourself. And you inflict hurt upon yourself not by always by cutting or by drinking, but by placing yourself in a situation which is untenable. Am I saying that you are at fault for the man stabbing you in the eye? No, that rests on him. Ultimately, that decision to pick up a knife or whatever it is and stab you in the eye is the man's fault. Nothing takes that away. Nothing absolves him from that. But now, what you do afterward solely rests on you. And so that just happened. That happened the Friday. I think it was the day before. We were all in arms celebrating Mia Mottley's win. You know, another notch for women folk. And in St. Lucia, we have to deal with another case of domestic violence, gender-based violence. And I know some of you have said, you know, why do we always define it as gender-based violence, and why do we have to title it? Because let me just give you a definition of violence, and we're going to be stuck on the issue of violence for a little bit. And by the way, this is an open mic, so I'm going to try to condense my contribution as much as possible so that we can have at least 45 minutes of chatting with you, getting your feedback, right? So violence is any behavior involving physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. Brutality, force, ferocity, savagery, cruelty, sadism, barbarity, brutishness, and so many other synonyms. The strength of emotion or an unpleasant or destructive natural force. Intensity, severity, strength, force, fury, fire, vehemence, power, potency, fervency, ferocity. When you think of these, when I think of these words, I think feral. I think feral. I think wild. You know, having no control. That is what you become when you inflict violence upon a person. Now, violence against women or gender-based violence is collectively any violent act that primarily or exclusively is committed against women and girls. So a man or woman picks up a knife, a gun, and shoots or stabs or inflicts pain with the intention to hurt, with the intention to kill, with the intention to maim because of that person's sex. That is gender-based violence. So we have to define it, because that person would not pick up that knife and stab somebody else, stab a man, say for instance, because he's a man. Maybe that's where his power lies, in submitting a female to pain, to hurt. You know, I think of gender-based violence as hate crimes. Simple. I think of it as a hate crime. I think of it as a crime against humanity. I think of it as a crime against a nation, because when you violent towards a woman, you're not just violent towards one person. So this woman, for instance, was stabbed in the eye. So now she can't work. And so now she has a hospital bill. And so now if she has children, she's unable to care for them the way she would have typically taken care of them, because she's laid up. She can't see properly. She probably is in a lot of pain. She can't do the things that she used to do. So then you've not just impacted a person, but you've impacted a family. You've impacted children. You've impacted a wider spectrum. You've now affected maybe not just a nuclear family, but an extended family as well, because maybe the grandparents have to come in, the aunties, the uncles, the cousins. So you've affected an extended family. And maybe there's nobody within the immediate extended family who can assist. So now you've affected a community. Because these children have to go to school, they're not taken care of, then that affects them, it affects their friends. You've affected an entire community. If we were to stop and think about the impact of our actions, the ripple effects that it has, if we were to stop and think about that, I highly doubt that we would commit a lot of the crimes or do a lot of the things that we do or say some of the things that we say. Because I am sure all of us have a conscience, and our conscience would be telling us, stop, alert, alert, red alert, stop, 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 think about what you're doing. Think about the persons that you care about. Think about the persons that will be impacted. Think about the burden on the nation. There's oftentimes when these crimes are committed, these individuals get to the hospital, sometimes they can't pay the bills, so you're putting a burden on the tax dollars, on the healthcare system, and we know the status of healthcare in this country. Stop and think. Stop and think. Over the years, we've had a multitude of women who have been hurt fatally. In other words, they've been killed. They haven't been as lucky to just suffer the loss of an eye. And speaking of the loss of an eye, it was not so long ago that we had another case of abuse wherein a father so brutalized the mother of his children. She lost her eye and he didn't care. He didn't care. Just like this other one, this last one there, it was in a busy place, very busy up in Rodney Bay, and the woman lost her eye just the same way. I think we have such short memories that we don't think things hurt us and affect us for just a moment. And 3 seconds later, boom, something else happens and we completely forget. Let's see the list of women who have not been so lucky, and some men too, who have not been so lucky to say, I survived domestic abuse. There is an entire list. Can we see the list, please? And the first one, Mary Ratcliffe. We all know what happened to Mary. Being a mother, protecting her picnic, her child, lost her head, literally. Cynthia Paul. Kirthy Paul, Corrine Paul, Donna John, Valerie Lord, and we know how she was split. Mary Henry, Trisha Dennis, for Giselle Georges, Pascaline Bertin, Johan Bertin, Ife Bertin, and some of these names, you'll see some of these names have the same last name, and that is mother and children who perished because a man could not control his feelings, could not control his emotions. Valinda Joseph, remember her? On her way to preparing herself to give witness in a rape case, previous rape case, ended up losing her life, being brutalized, raped, murdered in such a violent way. Brenda Gabriel, Josephine Emmanuel, Sherry Ann Myers, Feliciana Charles, and the list goes on and on and on. So many women so many women have lost their lives. So many women. And we continue. And you know the saddest thing about it? We make comments like, boy, let me tell you, if I was closer to Mitt, I would give him a hand. And you know where I'm coming from. Because those of us who know better, we perpetuate the violence. We cannot have a discussion, heated or otherwise, without implying that we would become violent. And it happens in our most august house. It happens to our most honorable men and women. If I was closer to mate, I given mate a hand. Inciting violence. That is where it is. You know, there's a saying that says, be careful what you think. It becomes your actions. Be careful what you say. You just may manifest it. If we keep saying we will be violent, if we keep saying we're going to do things that are violent in nature, eventually the day will come when it will happen. When it will happen. We know of the persons, the very many persons who should know better, who have been arrested because of their violent tendencies. Because they have no filter. You know? We feel that we are beyond or above the law. So we can say anything we want with impunity and get away with it. But the day will come when our thoughts and our words will become manifest, when we will act on it. And there would have been a track record, because you know social media these days, everything is recorded. Everything is recorded. And there will be no hiding place for us. But then again, this is St. Lucia. We forget things so easily. So easily. We're due for a break. But when we come back, while we're on the break, I want us to think about the impact of an ill-fated word. You know, and a lot of the times we do things and we say things to incite a certain reaction. And I always say, be very careful what you're looking for. Be very careful of the reaction that you're looking for, because you just may get it and you may not be able to deal with it. We're due for a break. Think about what one vile act of violence can impact on a person, a family, a community, a nation. See you on the other side of the break.
Hobby is thinking about you. That's why we've made a decision to bring the prices down on a wide selection of items just for you in our huge store-wide sale. Check this out. Dresses from $9.95. How about your stretch jeans? Only $29.95. Skirts from $29.95. And also available working blouses from $9.95. T-shirts as low as $6.95.
Wow, now that's what I call a bargain.
Oh, yes it is. Visit Hobby today, ladies, and be part of this huge store-wide sale. And make shopping at Hobby your hobby.
This summer, Blazin' 99.3 invites everyone to Temptation Island 2018 to experience history for the first time ever in St. Lucia. The two most attractive, talented, and trending female artists in the Caribbean performing live on one stage. The hottest female dancehall artist today, Shenseea. The Pretty Brownie, Shenseea.
Every girl feel wine. I do the bounce fire, bounce like bounce check. I do the verb with the
newest female sensation on the soca scene, Nyla Blackman. Nyla Blackman. Nyla Blackman. Hashtag Black Girl Magic. Melanin Diva Nyla Blackman. Also featuring the best of local soca and Dennery segment artist Temptation Island 2018. This is all going down on Sunday, July 1st, 2018 at Pigeon Island Beach. Dress code, swimsuit beach attire, sunset to midnight, 5 p.m. to 12 a.m. Get your tickets now. Limited early bird tickets $70. Pay more at the door. Ticket outlets, the Blazin' FM offices, all the cell outlets, Steve's Barbershop, Caribbean ASF Bar and Lounge, Brazil Street, Castries, 758 Smartphone Repairs, Martin Luther King Street, VF. Limited gold tickets available. For more info, follow us on social media, IG and Facebook at Blazin_Nation_SLU. All ages are welcome. You must be 18 to drink. Drink responsibly. Management reserves the right to refuse anyone on entry.
Violence against women and girls is a problem of pandemic proportions. At least 1 out of every 3 women around the world has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused in her lifetime, with the abuser usually someone known to her. Earlier, I said that oftentimes we focus on women and their abuse, and it's because we've had generations upon generations historical data to support women typically getting the shorter end of the stick when it comes to domestic violence. There have been so many of our women over the years who have suffered, who are no longer with us because of men who have no filter, who are unable to control themselves when it comes to their women, the woman in their lives, as if she's property, she's a piece of furniture, she's a piece of equipment. So many women have met the demise over the years, not just in St. Lucia. As I said, at least 1 out of every 3 women around the world has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused in her lifetime, with the abuser usually someone known to her. But what about the men? The men in our lives who just decide, you know what? I'ma just take you out. I'ma just take you out. You're looking at my woman, I'm gonna just shoot you. You have a car that I want, I'm just going to stab you, I'm just going to shoot you and take what you have. Just take what you have. Many times we don't think about that. We don't think about the men and how they abuse themselves. And last year we saw in St. Lucia, we had 60 murders, vast percentage of that being men killing men. So on May 25th, or was it the 25th? Yes, May 25th, we had a man who stabbed a woman. And while we were still reeling from that, last week, 1 man was shot dead and 4 people were hurt, including a child, due to a scene, I would say, straight out of Django Unchained. Straight out of Django Unchained. And those of you who have seen that movie, Django is a gunslinger, 2 guns and just guns blazing, taking out everybody in his way. Now, there's a lot of mixed reaction to what happened on Tuesday last week. Eyewitnesses said that this guy just came out, guns blazing, 2 guns, and shooting indiscriminately. There have been people who have said that this person had been bullied and abused over the years, and it's probably a case of just had enough, and he's never gotten into, he's the usual, a good boy, when good boy, good person. But we don't know his backstory. We don't know whether he had been bullied. We don't know whether it was a case of you're just being fed up, desperation, frustration, gone wild. We don't know. But what we do know is that a child was injured, an innocent bystander, an innocent child, heading home, was hurt in the process. And whether that person, that gunslinger, did what he did out of frustration, out of desperation, out of self-preservation, what we do know for a fact is that he was indiscriminate, and that he was irresponsible, and that he was selfish, and that he only thought of himself and his self-preservation. 4 people were injured. The carnage was unbelievable. People who were strewn and lying on the ground, blood all over the place, straight out of the scenes of a movie. And we want to say, let's not have an opinion because the person was frustrated and bullied and all that. But what did you do? If you knew all of that, and you knew he was bullied, and you knew all of what that you're saying in his defense, you knew all of that, what did you do to assist? How did you help him get out of the situation? Did you just stand by and say, wow, man, check out they just... And you could have done something. Did you plant that seed of violence in his head? And say, if it was me, I shooting them fellas. Yeah. We say it all the time. And eventually, it becomes manifest and we act on it. And then we want to blame other people for saying that man deserves to be thrown into jail, lock the doors, and throw away the keys. And then we still perpetuate the cycle because we always say, if it was my family, if it was my family, might do that, might have no resting place. It's a vicious cycle. A vicious cycle. We perpetuate. A vicious... 4 people were injured in one moment of indiscriminate cowboy western kind of a thing going on. And what irks me the most is that you're going to go do what you're going to do, but you're going to mask yourself. Why are you masking yourself? You ought not to be masking yourself because he's a bad boy. He's a bad boy you are, and you want to come out there and do what you're doing. So why are you masking your face? You should unmask your face. Let everybody see who you are, because you have every intention of escaping. Every intention of escaping and not being held accountable and responsible for the carnage that you create. Like I said, I don't know what the backstory is for what happened last week, Tuesday. But what I do know is an innocent child was injured as a result. A family, a mother and a father are in pain today because there's nothing that they could have done to protect their daughter. There's nothing that they could have done. friend is traumatized because she had to see her friend shut the gun down in the streets, and there's nothing she could do to help. Nothing she could do to help. A community is traumatized because they had to witness that mayhem last week. And there's nothing that they could have done to prevent or to stop. Kudos to our law enforcement officers who ran towards the scene and tried to quell what could have been exponentially worse had they not arrived at the time that they did. I will recall a few years ago, a little innocent girl gunned down under her bed because some gunmen didn't give a hoot who was in that house. They were coming for someone, and someone they would get, whether it was the person that they had identified or otherwise. They were going to get someone, and someone they got. And that little girl, poor child, hiding under her bed, got slain. Other family members were maimed. And yet, we go on like it's another day. Yet another day. Nothing for that. You know, you live by the gun, die by the gun, all kind of crap. We don't stop to think that we are somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody's father, somebody's mother. And that the evil that men conceive is the evil that men will do. So that we can take stock and stop and say, no, I won't go down that road because I may not be the one to reap the rewards of that action, but my loved ones, maybe. My loved ones, maybe. You know, and there's all of this furor about people just talking scrap. This one just talk. You don't know what happened. You don't know what Mid was going through and all of that. But what did you do? We didn't know what he was going through, but you did. Now, knowing that, how did you help? How did you help? So when you come on to say that this one doing this and that one doing that, and they talking all the kind of crap, they don't know what they're talking about. You know the situation. What did you do to assist the situation to make things better? And this at a time when we're saying that our healthcare is at its lowest. At a time that we are saying that we pretty much, are struggling with healthcare, you're going to put yourself and your family in a situation where they're going to be taxing that already beleaguered health system even more. Even more. It really is a shame. A shame that a country as small as St. Lucia, 170,000 people, we continue not to care for one another. We continue not to care about each other. So far for the year, we've had 11 homicides. 11 homicides, 2 suspicious deaths, which puts us about approximately 2 murders a month so far, which puts us on a trajectory of 24 to 25 murders at the end of the year, perhaps 30. Because we know towards the end of the year, there's always an escalation in violent crimes. Are we really shooting for these numbers? Did we not get a wake-up call last year? When we recorded 60 murders in 1 year? Are we aiming for the record of the most violent Caribbean island? Knowing full well that we depend heavily on tourism as our mainstay? Do we even think of that? Are we even capable of thinking beyond our noses, or seeing, beyond our noses, thinking that far ahead? The consequences, the ripple effects of our actions. And maybe the bad boys aren't sitting in front of a television listening to those words. But those of us who interact with them, because these people who do these things, they interact with all of us. What are we doing to ensure that the elements who are creating such discord in our country, that they change their ways, that they find a different avenue? I think it was last year, yes, because it was last year that we recorded 60 murders last year. We had a symposium on crime, and we were supposedly coming out of that symposium was solutions to the crime situation, or at least solutions to deter, if not end crime. Because, like I said, the evil that men conceive will often be the evil that they do. And as long as that there are men and women in the world, populating the world, who do not have a moral compass, there will be violent crimes. So we're not being so naive and wearing rose-tinted glasses and saying that we will annihilate crime or we will stamp out crime. But to deter crime, to slow down its roll, we still haven't heard anything. We still haven't seen any programs being unveiled, unrolled to curb crimes, to give alternatives to those persons who are predisposed to committing crime. Now, I heard my good friend, Officer Travis Shiko, talking about bringing back Operation Restore Confidence. And I hear we're talking about that. Like, I really don't think that Officer Shiko is talking about what happened prior and the the results of the impact report and all of that. Report. I don't think he's thinking along these lines, but I'm thinking that confidence in this country needs to be restored in our police officers. As a result, I think the impacts report, the DPP's office need to work on that, and they need, by whatever resources available to them, resolve that impact situation such that the Police Welfare Association and the police force by extension can start rebuilding the morale of the men and women of the Royal St. Lucia police force. I think, notwithstanding their bravado and notwithstanding their bravery, I think there's so much more that they can do. There's so much more that perhaps they want to do, but with that axe hanging over their heads, it's almost like you're in a straitjacket. So I'm hoping that our DPP can resolve the situation, and that our men and women of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force can restore their pride in the office that they hold, in the uniform that they wear. Because I'm hearing a lot of them saying that they're so fed up they just want to resign and quit. And if we have mass exodus of senior officers, Balfini Velo and Sack. We're due for another break. When we come back, We'll talk a little bit about the hospital that is supposed to, or what's going on there, and we'll open the line so that you can discuss any issues that you may have or share your opinion on what we've discussed so far. See you on the other side of the break.
You'll get over heartache. Carry on, don't fear the fall, 'cause you'll get over heartache. Let it go as time moves on. Yes, you'll get over heartache. Carry on, it's not what happens now. You'll get over heartache. You'll get over.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned to What's Happening Now with Laura, where we make your stories our stories. Earlier, we talked about violence against women. We talked about having no filters, violence, men against men, and the irresponsibility with which we discharge our fury on each other, which causes innocent bystanders to get caught in the crossfire. It's just really irresponsible. I want to touch a little bit on the hospital and the PPP and whatnot, but I realize that we're quickly running out of time, and I really want us to have at least a solid half hour for you to chat with me. So I'm going to open the lines right now. The number to call is 451-9788, or you can send me your WhatsApp messages on 284-6536, or you can email me at laurajappier@gmail.com. The number is again 451-9788 to call on air to give your contribution. WhatsApp is 284-6536, and email is laurajappier@gmail.com. Just briefly, while we're waiting for the calls to come in, I want to say that I want to talk a little bit about the PPP, but I want to have a resource person with me for us to hash it through and to discuss it. But I will say that PPPs are nothing new. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's nothing like privatization. Although it has an element of that. But I mean, countries over the world have been having their hospitals run as a result of PPP. I mean, the Philippines are talking about 72 of their hospitals being candidates for PPP program. We've got the UK, we've got Grenada, even right here in our region, considering or actually running their hospitals through PPP private public program. So it's nothing new. I think what we need to do, we need to stop and to think and to get the information and to understand and stop being led by emotion. At the end of the day, the opposition has a job to do, and their job is to try to get back into power. And a lot of the things I've realized over the years that politicians say and the way they behave and the way they act and the things that they do is one thing in opposition. And it's completely, totally different once they've assumed the reins of power. So we as citizens, we've got to be emotionally intelligent on certain situations, especially where our healthcare is concerned. I'm happy to hear that we are going to be continuing our hospital to continue the progress on the hospital, St. Jude Hospital, where it is. I'm happy for that. I am a little concerned that we still do not know when the recommencement is going to, when there is going to be the recommencement, how much of the hospital is going to be utilized, why certain parts of the hospital, and I have my own opinions about why, but we would like to hear the official word from government. They'd asked us for a month. I think the month has elapsed, and they've said, okay, they're going to continue the hospital, St. Jude Hospital, at its present location. But when are they going to recommence work? We don't know that. We don't know how much of the hospital is going to be used as is. We don't know, is it just a temporary thing or it's in phases, and that later on the entire structure is going to be utilized. We don't know whether there's going to be a learning component to it. We really don't know a lot of things. So there are still a lot more questions unanswered as opposed to questions answered with regards to St. Jude Hospital. But I, for one, am very happy to hear that recommencement on works should begin, but we would like to know when. We want to know when. We know we're in the hurricane season right now, and we want to know that we have a hospital in the event anything happens. We have our first call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Hello? Hello? You're on the air? We lost the call. Okay, so you can try back. I think we lost the call. But yes, back on St. Jude, I'm very happy to hear that work is going to commence on the hospital. I am just very concerned that we don't know when work is going to commence and how much of the hospital is going to be used. We need to get out of the hospitalium. We need to get our doctors and nurses working in a condition, in an environment that is conducive to work. We do know that when push comes to shove, in an emergency situation, circumstances, prohibiting being housed in a proper building, we can work otherwise. We have our next call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi, good evening.
You sure you don't know when, or you're not speaking the truth?
I don't know when. Do you know
Really?
something that I don't know?
I don't know. You are the one that's supposed to know.
How am I supposed to be the one? How am I supposed to know?
You're in position to know
And really, how is that I'm in position to know?
because it's you giving it. You work with the Prime Minister.
I work with the Prime Minister. That's news to me. I must check to see what's going on because I've never gotten a paycheck from the Prime Minister and I don't have a job description from the Prime Minister. I would like for the call, but she dropped the call. I would have loved for her to tell me and the nation at large what position I hold with the Prime Minister. You know, and these are the kinds of things we just talked about, emotional intelligence. You're going to call and make a comment and you're going to sound so asinine. You're going to make a statement like that you have absolutely no evidence of. Again, people, let us think. Let us think for ourselves. Let us stop allowing other people to push us into directions. Let us think I think for myself. I think for myself. I don't know for other people, but I think for myself. And the last I checked, I do not work with the government of St. Lucia, nor do I work within the ambit of the Prime Minister's office. I know the Prime Minister has a lot of people working in his office. Minister Pala, people Pala, but not me. Thank you very much. We have our next call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Good night.
Good night, dear.
I would like you to define for me again gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence. Violence that is carried out by individuals against, okay, let me give you the proper definition. Violent acts that are primarily or exclusively committed against women or girls or, and my definition is really skewed towards women and girls, but you can remove that and put gender, right? Violent acts that are primarily or exclusively committed against persons because of their gender, sometimes considered a hate crime, and this type of violence is gender-based, meaning that the acts of violence are committed against a person expressly because of their gender.
Okay. I asked because you focus when you said it earlier, you said against women.
Yes, and I did say that I was going to focus because of what I was talking about the woman with the stabbing in the eye. But it can be against men or women or boys. And I did show the list of persons in St. Lucia who have met their demise as a result of gender-based violence. And on that list, there were men included as well.
Yes. But I find that you focus on women a lot. And
yes.
To me, most feminists like yourself, you tend to demonize men. It's like all violence, as long as there is violence in a household, and it's against a woman, like you demonize all men based on just because of domestic violence.
No, I don't. But let me just make this lucidly clear. I did say that there are, and I did say my perspective, I'm coming from that perspective because historically there is a lot of history, there's a lot of data that supports that women have generally been stomped on, and from that perspective I am going to be focusing on the abuse against women. That is not to say that all men are demonized. I will never do that. I've always said, but I will focus on women because that is our history.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, and I understand that. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling. But I don't want, because a lot of my viewers are male, and I do understand, I do respect, and I do appreciate that for us to have a holistic community, a country where, you know, that is free-flowing, we must have interaction between men and women, and we cannot demonize all men because of what some men have done. Right? We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Good night, Laura.
Good night, dear.
It's my first time talking on your show.
Okay, welcome.
Something I always longed for. Yeah. Yes. To tell you the truth, first of all, I'm very disappointed in that caller that talked to you and told you about, because you work in the Prime Minister's office. Let me tell you that, my girl, you have been doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Keep it up. God be with you. You have God's blessings.
Thank you.
And like they say, laver ou théâtre toujours en français.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is what that hurt her.
Absolutely.
That jackass. She should feel ashamed of herself.
Language.
Excuse me.
Yes, I can.
She should feel ashamed of herself. Not somebody like you that is so nice and genuine to get on that. She make a fool out of herself.
Thank you.
She should be ashamed of herself. Yes.
And you will find people like that. You will find that there are people, as long as you're not saying something that resonates with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And let me tell you that. And the truth always hurts, like they say. Yes. Yeah. It's my first chance I get to talk to you on your show. I'm very proud. Now you see me, I'm somebody, that's how I am. If I cannot answer the topic, I will ask you, can I talk to you, Laura, on something else or whatever. But I wouldn't make a fool of myself and tell you, oh, you work in the Prime Minister's office, you're supposed to know. That's political.
And that is the problem.
Why
That is the problem.
not behaving themselves?
And that is the problem. It's not just political, because I do not have an issue with people having a political issue, but it is the partisan politics that they bring into it. You can have an opinion. You can support any party you want. I support whichever party I want. Nobody can change that. Nobody can make me do anything I don't want to do. But we must be solid-minded enough to understand that everything that one party does cannot be 100% correct. And we must be able to dissent, and we must be able to say, yes, good job, or no, that was absolutely crap, that made no sense. And when you cannot diminish what somebody's saying, to attack them otherwise, I just think that's just a sign of ignorance.
Yes. Something I'm going to bring to your attention. This loud, aggressive music on board the motor cars in St. Lucia, that is getting out of hand now and intolerable. Last year, I was talking to a young lady by Elwin's Pharmacy about that, and she told me, she called my name and she told me so and so. I heard a rumor like that the Prime Minister is going to pass a law for that thing, because Laura, believe it or not, that can kill somebody, you know.
Absolutely.
The people passing in on, especially when your house is by the road, and they pass in with that doom. I am saying to myself, these people are not humans. They don't have a heart, they don't have a brain, and you feeling these things. I'll give you an example, and I want you to send a message to the Prime Minister and to the government and to the people responsible. I live at Waterworks Road and lower down Ideal Bakery, and my home is by the street. And Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, I coming from the yard, and the house where it's a bit flat at the front. It's only a flat step to get in, but to go out and to go in the yard, it's about 7 to 8 steps. And girl, when I coming up, one fool that has nothing to do, he don't see nowhere to park his car in front of my door. And Laura, a kind of doom, 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 doom. And Laura, I am a heart patient. I suffer with a double heart ache. One, an enlarged heart, and the other, an irregular heartbeat. Now, I want him or his wife, if they are listening, he will never tell them that because they will give him wrong. That you park in front of a house, you don't know the area, and the thing is playing doom, 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 doom. And I going up the steps, Laura. I had to stick close to the house because I felt like I swaying like a coconut tree under hurricane. And if I didn't do that, I would fall down, probably break my neck and whatever. And I'm feeling that vibration in my heart. So can you tell me how that cruel that is?
Now you know there is a law. There is a law. I think it's called sound. There is a law for sound. And I remember at one point when I was attending Sir Arthur, they really used to crack down on it because the buses that we traveled on always had that loud music.
A loud music.
Yeah, and I must check to see what exact. But there is a sound. There's a law with regard to the loudness of the decibels that you can have your radio on in your car. And a lot of these people, what they do, they've modified the speakers, so they've got these huge speakers in the back of their cars, and they're so smart. They're not going to damage their eardrums. The speakers are all facing outward, so you on the outside, you on the outside getting all the sound that all
get the feedback.
Yeah.
So what happened? I came up, I passed through the kitchen because my kitchen is way inside, and then I came at the door. I saw he was doing what he ever doing. I simply say, hello, good night. Hello, good night. He came out, and while I talking to him, I said, sir, around here has sick people. You don't know the area, without identifying myself as one of the sick people. And tell him, could you please kindly low down on your thing. I don't ask you to cut it off. I'll not go that far. I'm not that indiscreet. Please low down while you are here because around the area has sick people, old people. While telling him that, Laura, a guy opposite me come there, a Rasta guy come there. Yo, gasa. Around here have sick people. You can't come here and singing. Look at the difference between me and the Rasta, how I spoke to him nicely. Before he start answering me, he flare up. I was driving down the road and a fire was in my car, so I feel I can park on the government road anywhere and then check my car, and you telling me about loud music? Well, you should go and build your home on some mountain or whatever. I said, that's how you say it. Well, the same applies to you. What goes around comes around. And then when the other guy give him what he had to give him, tell him, around here people and so on, he just actually go in the car, bang the car, and just speed off with the same loud music.
Wow.
Now, what kind of thing is that?
Wow.
Well,
that's amazing because
why, Laura, we niggers don't learn to be with one another?
But that's
why
the thing.
I always said the white man will always be on top of us. The white man should be an example to us. Somebody talking to you so nicely and kindly out of the conscience of his heart. He's telling you, please, Lord, and you getting on like that. Oh, I should go on a hill, on a mountain, or on a special place and build my house. Why is it around? I come and build my house by a road. I find it is too damn rude and out of place.
But he was breaking the same laws. While he has every right to stop on the road and to check his vehicle if he's having an emergency, but while he's checking the emergency, there's nothing that says that he cannot lower the volume of his music. And also, there is a law against the loud, excessive music, the excessive loudness of your radio in the car.
I want that to stop, yes. Unless, like the neighbor who live in the wall house tell me, we live in a half wooden house and wall. The wooden structure is facing the street, but the wall structure is at the back of the house. And the man tell me his 2-bedroom house is a wall house. And he tell me, in that wall house, I'm feeling it shaking like an earthquake when they pass in.
Yes, it does, and you feel it. You feel the vibration in your chest.
Far less your wooden house.
Yeah, yeah.
So why this kind of thing? He lives in Baltimore, Maryland, and he tell me you'll not see these things in America.
Not at all.
Why? But does it happen here?
Because we don't enforce our laws. We
don't
have
care.
laws on
We
our
don't
books,
care.
and we
We
don't.
don't
Yeah,
care.
and we do
don't
not
care
care.
for one another.
Absolutely.
We give two damns about one another.
Absolutely.
Like this man on Radio Helen FM St. Lucia there. Every time he closing his program, he ending his program, he telling you, and I'm going, I'll see you all tomorrow, and I hope you all, and remember, do unto others as you would have liked them to do unto you. If you're listening to that thing, you'll always hear he saying that. And I don't know. And just a minute again before I go, because I know there are other people who want to make their calls. Lower down me there, in the yellow house there, they have a lady who lives in Martinique. She has her papers. She lives there for years, but she always come here Christmas time. And then maybe in February or March she goes back. Yeah. She tell us, in Martinique, that started. And when the police keep on warning them, they still doing it. Government had to step in. And you know what she tell me? That they gave the police the rights. Every corner of the road had 2 vehicles with 3 or 4 police with their guns, and they would stop you. And when they stop you, Laura, they ask you, didn't you heard about that music? And they take your number, they write you a ticket, they charge you, and they follow you. They take you straight to the police station, Laura. And when you reach there, case has been done, you've been charged and everything. Now she tells me you can hardly hear a vehicle passing with music now.
But you
If
must,
hear it, it's very low.
you must. I think we need to enforce our laws.
Because you give the nigger, a black person, an inch, they take a mile. Yes.
It's true.
Yes.
It's
Just
true.
now they'll want to think that they can park in front of your house and make a barbecue and open the car all night long with their loud music and they don't care. And people dying.
Absolutely. Yeah. But thank you so much for
Yes,
sharing
Laura.
with us and for
Thank you very much,
And I
Laura.
hope you call more often.
I'll try my best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you and have a
Okay.
good evening. And that's the thing. I think I can't remember what it's called right now. It eludes me. But there is a law on our law books about that loud music. There is a certain decibel that you allowed to have your radio on in your cars, and we need to observe that because we're not just the only ones using the roads and our environment. You have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Laura,
Yes.
you said that you don't know when they will start working on the St. Jude Hospital.
Uh-huh.
But I saw you about 2 weeks ago at that same hospital talking about the hospital not standard to be a hospital.
2 weeks ago, you sure it's 2 weeks ago? You sure it's 2 weeks ago?
Well, I know it can be. I know, but I saw you.
You saw me. You saw me at the hospital.
So why you tell me now you don't know nothing about hospital?
But y'all don't understand and y'all don't listen. I think y'all have been deliberately obtuse. Y'all don't listen. Y'all do not understand. And before you open your mouth, you need to understand the words that's coming out of my mouth. Okay, so that the words coming out of your mouth can make a little bit more sense. Previously, when I went to the hospital, I gave my opinion on the... can we stop that tooting, right? I gave my opinion on what I saw at the hospital. The government of St. Lucia has its own mandate. I gave my opinion, Laura Japierre, as a citizen of St. Lucia, as a person who went into the hospital, and I gave my opinion. What I saw, what my opinion is, has nothing to do with the government, and it does not sway the government one way or another. I saw what I saw. and I commented on what I saw. I reported on what I saw. There are hallways in that hospital that are way too small for a wheelchair to pass through and a person coming down in the opposite direction. Absolutely, I saw that. I measured it with myself. And the reason I measured with my arms and with my height is because a lot of us do not understand measurements. So when I measure, I am not so tall, and I stand in a hallway or I stand in a doorway, and you can see the space above my head. You get an idea. I gave my opinion. Subsequent to giving my opinion, and I've always said that regardless of what is happening at St. Jude, regardless of what's happening at St. Jude, it is far better than where the patients and the doctors and the nurses are expected to operate from at the hospitadium. I've always said that. So sometimes, because we are so colorblind, and I'm not saying what you want me to say, or you're not hearing what you want me to say, you will just put on your own thing. I have come out and say I do not know when, because the acting prime minister at the time said that they will resume and they will continue the hospital at the location it is right now. I said I am happy for that. But what the acting prime minister did not say was when they would resume works. So you cannot now say that I should know. I gave my opinion and I'm giving it now. I want to know when we are going to resume work on the hospital. I want to know how soon we're going to start, and I want to know how much of the hospital is going to be commissioned. Is that too much to ask? It is the same thing that you are asking, but because I am asking, it's a problem. We need to sometimes stop and think about what we're asking. Stop looking at life in St. Lucia through colored lens, yellow or red. We need to look at it through crystal clear lens so we can see the issues. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, dear.
Laura, why are you wasting your time on these hacks? You don't see these hacks are doing this kind of thing.
But you have to make them understand, because it's annoying.
They desperate people do desperate things, darling. Good night.
Thank you for calling. But it's really annoying. It's really annoying. You're asking the same questions that they're asking, but because you're asking the question, you ought not to have. You ought not to be asking the question. We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Good evening, Laura.
Yes,
I'd just like to say to you, I've always appreciated your program because of the issues related to women that you tend to highlight.
Thank
I
you.
wish that you would not allow yourself to be distracted, because I think some people deliberately attempt to have us deviate from discussing those issues.
Absolutely. I quite agree.
I really believe that. We should not be talking about any hospital now. You were showing a list a while ago, a horrendous list with the names of women who have become victims
and the horrific
of
way
violence.
they lost their lives. The horrific way in which they lost their lives.
So I would appreciate more of that being said and spoken about, and callers be told that no, whatever you are saying there is an issue that's unrelated to the topic at hand. I think that there needs to be more of frequent discussion.
I quite agree.
Women, because generally what we have seen is that women are disadvantaged. Women are disadvantaged. I cannot deal with the world now. The world is too much for my small mind, but I can deal with St. Lucia. Right within our national context, we see that women are deliberately disadvantaged, subjugated, oppressed, victimized in every way. Everything in this society is designed and has so been to have the woman oppressed, demeaned. And one of the issues that we tend to sidestep is that of religion. I think religion has contributed
Absolutely.
significantly. Our religious beliefs, our religious dogma have contributed significantly to the oppression and subjugation of women. We seek from various writings, be it the Bible or the Quran, we seek from writings support, justification for the treatment of women. Even within the church context, Christian church, we see a very palpable misogyny being practiced and upheld. And this is upheld by men who are flagrant misinterpreters of the Holy Scriptures. who seek their gain, their advantage in their attempts at determining the meaning, although those texts have evolved from archaic, obsolete languages to what we now use, but they seek to attach their interpretation to these writings, and it is always an interpretation that puts them at the advantage and the woman in the position where she's disadvantaged and even disenfranchised. Women must understand that they are of the majority.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are of the majority. And it is something I did once I had to deliver a message for abolition in Guadeloupe. And I shared with the women that if they were to stand together and determine in protest that they will withdraw their economic participation in the country for 1 day, the country would fail. And if women ever want to protest, these are the things they can do. Women are the movers and shakers, those who undergird every economic activity in this country. And if they decide in a very determined way to withdraw their economic participation in the country is shut down for 1 day. That's the amount of power that women have. And they ought not to allow themselves to be seen as victims. Women ought not to do
Absolutely.
that. And I am sending out a word here and encouraging women and girls to seek to educate themselves, because education would be their key, their doorway, their pathway, because education empowers the woman. So girls, do not be distracted by the raunchy music, the messages out there that seek to sexualize you and in the same vein make a victim of you, but rather see yourself as one who can contribute in this world, one who can be a participant in your nation's development. And that is only facilitated through education. Have a good evening all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And sometimes you get a little divine intervention sometimes, because those two callers really got my goat. But she's quite correct. She's quite correct. We have another call on line. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Your final call. Please lower the volume on your television. Yes. Good night, dear.
Let me tell you. You are a young lady. Be careful with the red mealybug. Take it and raise up your pressure, please. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. But the penultimate caller was quite correct. So sometimes you have these people who call to undermine, and the last caller was correct as well. I don't really subscribe to the name calling, maybe in a previous life. But there are people who call to undermine the message, to dilute the message of what is the substantive message trying to be brought out, and that is that women have for years, and that's what I was trying to explain to the caller, the gentleman caller who said that I tend to demonize men, and that's not what it is. By empowering women, it's not to demonize men, but to put women on an equal footing. Right? Remember, we say we are a Christian nation, and God didn't say he took woman from a bone in the foot of man, but at his side, which means that your women should be at your side, and women need to understand that and appreciate that within them lies great power, that within them lies great potential to move and shake and to do things and to determine their destiny. We cannot as women continue to allow ourselves to be used as doormats. And a lot of people say, but so much is being said about women, but women have not yet elevated to their rightful position to understand and to appreciate the power that lies within her, the potential that lies within her. And I so appreciate the last woman caller for her contribution, because to me, it really resonated with me, and it really made sense. And a lot of us ought to think about that. And as I said, let's not look at the messenger and try to hear what we think we ought to be hearing. You have your right to associate with whomever and whichever organization that you want. But let us be right thinking. And something I've always said, there's nothing wrong with being submissive if it is what you want. Do not ever allow yourself to submit to people because it is their will imposed on your will. If you want to be submissive, if you want to be the kind of a person who is the support actor in the life of your family, all good and well. But if you want to be the lead actor, never allow anybody to submit you into being the supporting actor or being relegated to the back lines. And I am so moved by that contribution. In my head, I'm already thinking of a program that I'm going to work on with my foundation, CHF, Caring Hands Foundation. So I'll be making a few calls and putting together that program. And I'm hoping that it will, when it comes through, that it will be very successful and women will have an appreciation for themselves, a greater appreciation for themselves, and that men too will understand their role. It is not that we want to relegate them to the backyard, but rather to work with them so that we can have a holistic life. And unfortunately, this is where we end this evening. Our time is short. Our time is all done. I so wanted to talk a little bit about the crossing of the floor of Bishop Atherley, I think, from Barbados, but we'll talk about that at another time when we're not diluting the substantive message that we're bringing across. And the term that I wanted to remember for the lady is that we have a noise ordinance in St. Lucia. And next week when I come in, I will read it out in its entirety, the noise ordinance of St. Lucia. But thank you so much for joining and for staying tuned throughout the program. I really appreciate your calls, your calls and your contributions, and also I appreciate those of you who called me or sent me WhatsApp messages last week to find out what was wrong because we didn't have a program last week. I thank you so much for your concern as usual, and until next week, adieu.